In the far reaches of the cosmos, where empires rise and fall in silence, there was a name whispered with trembling voices: a warlord, undefeated. Entire civilizations burned at his command, stars dimmed in the shadow of his fleets. For centuries no world could resist him until a word reached his ears that changed everything. Humans, welcome to Echoes of Sci-Fi, where the impossible collides with destiny, and the story of humanity's defiance is written among the stars. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe for more tales of courage, war, and wonder. Join us, where humanity echoes across the stars. Kilvor the Eternal. That was the name carved into the bones of history across galaxies. His reign was not one of leadership, but of domination. A towering figure of alien might, with a mind sharpened by centuries of war, Kilvor had bent empires to his will. Planets bowed, species vanished, and every rival who dared to rise against him was crushed beneath the iron weight of his fleets. He was a warlord born in fire, tempered by endless conflict. To speak his name was to summon fear. In his presence kings wept, queens surrendered, and warriors threw down their weapons, knowing they faced the inevitable. For 1,000 years, Kilvor had never known the taste of defeat, but greatness feeds on conquest, and even legends hunger for new prey. His scouts combed the stars, charting distant systems, always searching for the next challenge. And then, they returned with something unexpected. They spoke of a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Primitive, they said. Chaotic, yes, but stubborn in ways no other race had been. They called themselves humans. Kilvor laughed. How could fragile beings, bound to flesh and fear, be anything but dust before his armies? But his spies spoke of strange victories, of how humans survived where logic said they should perish, how they endured loss, only to rise again stronger, how they fought wars not for conquest, but for each other. It was absurd, it was laughable, and yet, something in those reports unsettled him. Kilvor had crushed countless empires, but none had ever been described this way. And among the reports, one detail stood apart. A woman, a leader, whose defiance kindled resistance like wildfire. A name carried in whispers even the warlord could not ignore. Curiosity became obsession. Kilvor summoned his council, demanding every scrap of intelligence gathered from Earth. Screens flickered with grainy transmissions stolen from human networks, protests in the streets, voices raised in unison, soldiers standing bloodied yet unbroken. He studied battles where humans faced overwhelming odds. Their technology was primitive compared to his fleets, yet their minds twisted adversity into innovation. With sticks and fire, they had once survived beasts far stronger. With steel and engines, they had crossed oceans and skies. Now, with fragile crafts, they reached into the void itself. But what truly disturbed Kilvor was not their machines. It was their spirit. Every war recorded in their history revealed something terrifying. When humans were beaten, they adapted. When shattered, they rebuilt. When broken, they returned fiercer than before. Among the fragments of data, the same figure emerged again and again. A woman named Elara Vey, not a queen, not a soldier, not even born to power, yet she had become the rallying flame of her people. Elara was beautiful, yes, but her beauty was forged in hardship. Her speeches turned despair into defiance. Her presence turned scattered survivors into unified legions. Intrigued, Kilvor descended upon Earth. His fleets darkened the skies, eclipsing the sun itself. Towers crumbled beneath orbital strikes, oceans boiled from falling fire, and the world trembled as his armies landed. But Elara did not flee. She stood upon the ruins of her city, her people gathered at her back. Her eyes blazed with the fury of survival. And when Kilvor approached, expecting trembling submission, she did not bow. The warlord spoke. His voice rumbled like thunder, echoing across broken streets. "You are strong for a mortal, stronger than most I have slain. I would spare your life, Elara Vey. Come with me, stand at my side, be mine, and I will spare this fragile world." The offer stunned those who heard it. The eternal warlord, breaker of empires, offering mercy to a human? Yet his gaze betrayed truth. He wanted her, not as an equal, but as a trophy. Ilara's answer was simple. Her voice, steady and sharp as steel, cut through the silence. "I would rather die here with my people than live as your captive. This world is not yours to take. You will never break us." For the first time in his life, Kilvor felt something alien to him. A pause, a doubt, and buried within it, fear. Her refusal spread like wildfire. Across shattered cities and burning fields, humanity rallied. What Kilvor intended as conquest became a crucible, forging resistance unlike any he had faced. Humans, armed with scraps and desperation, fought back. They turned ruins into fortresses, wreckage into weapons. Families who had never held a gun stood shoulder to shoulder with soldiers, each driven by a single truth. Survival was not just possible, it was necessary. Kilvor unleashed his fleets, his weapons of annihilation, but every strike only steeled their resolve. His armies advanced, only to be met with ambushes so cunning they seemed born of madness. Humans used terrain, storms, and even their own destruction to trap and bleed his forces. And at the heart of it all stood Ilara. Her voice carried through the chaos, uniting farmers, workers, scientists, and warriors into one. She was no mistress, no ornament to be owned. She was the embodiment of defiance itself. Kilvor watched as battles dragged into weeks. His fleets, once invincible, suffered losses greater than he had known in centuries. His generals whispered of withdrawal. His soldiers spoke of the humans with reverence, even fear. One night, from the shattered horizon, Ilara's forces launched a counterstrike. They hacked his networks, turned his machines against him, and struck where he was weakest. In that moment, Kilvor realized the truth. Humans were dangerous not because of their strength, but because of their refusal to surrender. And within him, something deeper stirred. He admired her, desired her, yet feared her more than any weapon. For Ilara had shown him that humanity's spirit could not be owned, could not be conquered. The war escalated. Kilvor's fleets unleashed storms of plasma upon Earth. Yet every time he thought the planet would crumble, humanity clawed back. Entire cities fell, yet survivors emerged from the ashes, fighting harder. Every victory tasted of ash. Every advance demanded more than even his endless armies could sustain. The humans adapted faster than his empire could calculate. In the final clash, his army marched upon the last stronghold. The walls were crude, the weapons laughable, but the defenders stood with eyes unbroken. At their center, Ilara raised a banner of defiance. It was not cloth. It was the tattered remnant of their fallen flag, stitched with blood and ash. When the warlord struck, humanity struck back. Traps detonated, skies lit with fire, and for the first time in 1,000 years, Kilvor faltered. His soldiers, bred for conquest, hesitated. They saw not victims, but equals, fighters who refused to kneel. In that moment, Kilvor understood. Fear was not weakness. It was the recognition of something greater than himself. He had conquered empires, but he could never conquer the human spirit. The war ended not with surrender, but with silence. Kilvor withdrew his fleets, leaving Earth scarred yet unbroken. He had not been defeated by weapons or armies, but by something far more dangerous: resilience. Ilara became a symbol, not just for Earth, but for the galaxy. Stories of the woman who defied the eternal warlord spread across stars. To some, she was legend. To others, a warning. And Kilvor? For the first time in centuries, he felt the weight of mortality. He had found an enemy he could never truly defeat, not because they were stronger, but because they refused to break. He whispered her name in silence, not as a conqueror, but as a man who had finally met his match. And across the stars, The echo of humanity resounded louder than ever before. This was Echoes of Sci-Fi, a tale of defiance, of love, of the spirit that makes humanity unbreakable. If you felt the power of this story, subscribe now and join us, where humanity echoes across the stars.